Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at the 6th set of fact sheets that have been released for Farming Simulator 25. And we have 3 vehicles and 2 pieces of equipment to go over. So let's take a look at them. Starting out we have the John Deere 9RX series tractor with the Bednar Swifter Disc XE18400 Mega Disc Harrow. And we have the 9RX in FS22, so we're all familiar with this tractor. But still, it's nice to see it returning to FS25 because it is a great tractor. Then the Bednar Disc Harrow we have also seen in some gameplay before, but it's a very large piece of equipment and the setup of this with the John Deere does look really good. Going over to the specs, the 9RX tractor has engines ranging between 539 to 691 horsepower, a 1490 litre fuel tank, weighs a whopping 25.5 tonnes, and costs £545,500 at the base price, so it is a very expensive machine. Then it has power shift transmission with a top speed of 40 km per hour or 24 miles per hour, which is pretty standard for a tractor with quad tracks because as we know they have a lower top speed than tractors with wheels. But yeah, that's the specs for the 9RX, which is a very large and powerful tractor that's capable of pulling some of the biggest equipment in the game. Going over to the Bednar Disc Harrow, this requires a huge 580 horsepower, so only the largest of tractors will be able to pull this. Then it has an 18.4 metre working width, costs £194,500, weighs 21 tonnes, and has a working speed of 18 km per hour or 11 miles per hour. So this is a very heavy piece of equipment and it's also quite expensive for a disc harrow. But with an 11 mile per hour working speed and 18.4 metre working width, it will make quick work of large size fields. Up next we have the Manitou MLT 841 145 PS Plus telehandler. And Manitou is another brand that we've seen before. No doubt we've all used their telehandlers at some point as well. But this is the one that's coming to FS25, and there might even be some more models of Manitou telehandlers because we had a few in FS22. Although with the addition of the Merlot and Sembogan, this could be the only one from them. For the specs, this telehandler has 141 horsepower, a 126 litre fuel tank, weighs 9.2 tonnes, and costs £139,000. Then it has manual plus power shift transmission with a top speed of 40 km per hour or 24 miles per hour. So it's got some decent specs and it's quite reasonably priced. However, I'm pretty sure the Merlot is only slightly more expensive, and it's a much more capable machine with the ability to connect equipment to the back of it. So personally, I'd choose the Merlot over this, but still, it's not a bad telehandler to have on your farm. Next up we have the Oxbo EPD 540E pea harvester. And we've had the spinach and green bean harvesters in previous fact sheets, so we already know the specs for those, but now we get to see them for the pea harvester. And this has 396 horsepower, a 950 litre fuel tank, and a 3,700 litre capacity, which is quite a lot lower than the spinach and green bean harvester. Then it has a 3.8 metre working width, and comes in at a price of £571,000. So there's no surprise there considering how much the other Oxbo machines cost. Then it's got variable CVT transmission with a top speed of 25 km per hour or 15 miles per hour, weighs 23.3 tonnes and has a working speed of 10 km per hour or 6 miles per hour. And now we know the specs for all 3 of the Oxbo machines, the one thing we can be certain about is that getting into peas, green beans or spinach won't be cheap. So unless you're planning on doing one of the 3 crops regularly or long term, I think the best option would be to lease the harvesters, because buying one will be quite the investment if not. Moving on we have the Silo King Troudline 4.0 system 1000 Plus, which is a bigger version of the Silo King forage wagon we have in FS22. So it's still the Troudline, but obviously this one just has a larger capacity. We can see some cows in this screenshot as well, and it looks like they have a slightly better fur texture, but other than that there isn't anything else to point out about them. So for the specs, this forage wagon costs £80,000, requires 240 horsepower, and has a 35 to 45,000 litre capacity. And I don't think we've ever had a capacity option for a forage wagon before, Usually there would just be different models of them with different capacities. So maybe instead of having them as two separate pieces of equipment, it would just be a configuration option that changes the model. I mean, it can only be that or an extension added on, just like with the trailers. But either way, it will be interesting to see how it works. Anyway, for the weight, this weighs 13.7 tonnes. Then it can hold all of the stuff we need to make TMR. And there's also the sign for mineral feed and forage, which is what we'll end up with if we get the mix wrong for TMR. And I'm sure we've all done that before. But they're the specs for this forage wagon, and it's nice to see a larger version of the Silo King come into the base game. Like I just said, it will be interesting to see how the capacity works for this as well. And we have actually looked at all of the vehicles and equipment now, so that brings us to the end of this week's fact sheets. But as always, we got to see the specs for a few more machines that are coming to FS25, and there's still just over 5 weeks to go until the game's released on November 12th. So with these fact sheets coming out every Friday up until then, we'll have another 5 of them to go over in that time. But that's everything for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know by leaving a like and feel free to subscribe so you never miss another video.